Cole Whitaker heard the pump burst before he even saw it. A sharp hiss, a crack, and then a blast of cold water slapped across his neck and shirt. He stumbled back, muttering under his breath as rust and mud sprayed over his chest. The sun was barely up, and already the land wanted a piece of him. The dry New Mexico air stung his eyes while he shut off the valve with both hands. Another morning, another repair, another reminder that Cotton Creek Ranch survived only because he refused to give up on it. He leaned on his heels, breathing hard. 500 acres of dust, fences that broke faster than he could fix them, horses with more attitude than sense, and a water supply one dry summer away from disappearing forever. Some days the loneliness felt easier than others. Today, it pressed on him heavy, making the silence too loud, too deep. He wiped his face, grabbed his shirt, and straightened just as he heard it. Hoof beats, slow, steady. Not a threat, but not familiar either. Cole's hand moved for the shotgun resting by the corral post. In this part of New Mexico, trouble didn't announce itself politely. It drifted in with dust and heat, wearing a face you didn't expect. He turned, squinting against the morning glare. A young woman rode toward him, her outline blurred by waves of heat rising from the cracked ground. She sat atop a tired donkey, a wide straw hat shading most of her face. Even from a distance, Cole could tell she wasn't afraid. She rode with the kind of quiet strength the desert tried to break, but never managed to. She didn't wave. She didn't look around nervously. She simply stopped near the trough, slid off the donkey, and stood barefoot in the dust. "Morning," she said, her voice clear and steady. "I came for water." Cole blinked. Most people asked with excuses or apologies. They always offered eggs, firewood, or some kind of trade, but this girl looked around like the land belonged to her just as much as to him. He nodded at the jug strapped to the donkey. "The village well's dry again." She didn't look surprised. He already knew. Las Palomas has been dry 3 days. Folks are walking miles. "You figured my spring would still be holding." "I did. You figured right. Go ahead." She knelt and filled the jugs without rushing. Her hands calm and sure. Cole watched her closely, noticing the way she moved. Patient, balanced, like she'd learned to use her strength wisely because she didn't have much to spare. Her long black braid slid over her shoulder as she leaned forward. "What's your name?" Cole asked. "Rosalie Jimenez, Domingo's daughter." The name hit a memory. Domingo, the quiet blacksmith with a limp and a scar along his jaw. A hard-working man Cole respected even at a distance. He never knew Domingo had a daughter. "I'm Cole Whitaker," he said. She didn't look at him when she answered. "I know who you are. My father says your family's been here longer than the cattle." "That sounds like an insult." She gave a small smile. "Maybe it is." When the jugs were full, she lifted each one with surprising strength. Cole stepped forward, surprised. "You came all this way alone?" She nodded. "No one else had the legs for it. It's dangerous. Bandits were spotted near the ridge." "I brought something," she said, lifting the edge of her dress just enough to show the carved handle of a blade tucked into her belt. "I know where to cut." Cole let out a soft laugh. "You're not scared of the desert. That's why you should be scared of me." Their eyes met for the first time, and something inside Cole jolted. Her stare was deep and steady, not soft or uncertain like he expected. She looked at him like she could see straight through the quiet places he never spoke about. "Thanks for the water," she said, climbing onto the donkey. "Come back tomorrow if you need more." "I will." He watched her disappear over the ridge long after the dust settled. Something about her stayed behind, something he couldn't shake. She hadn't come here with fear. She hadn't come here to bargain. She hadn't come here to beg. She came with a fire the desert hadn't managed to take from her. And for the first time in years, Cole felt something sharp and alive settle in his chest. Curiosity. The next morning, he was awake before dawn, rinsing 2 clean jugs beside the repaired pump. He told himself it was just kindness, a neighborly thing. But deep down, he knew better. When he heard hooves again, he didn't reach for the shotgun. He just waited. Rosalie arrived quietly, breath steady, her braids swinging behind her. She didn't ask permission. She knelt by the jugs like the place already knew her. "You always wake this early?" she asked. "Or only when you're expecting company?" Cole smirked. "Ranch doesn't run itself. You're alone out here." "Most days, yes." She filled the first jug, turned to look at him fully this time, and something passed between them. Not romance, not yet, but an understanding. Loneliness recognized loneliness. By the time the second jug filled, Cole realized she wasn't just here for water. She carried questions in her eyes and a quiet strength in her hands. And when she turned to leave, he found himself speaking before he had time to think. "Rosalie, you can come back anytime." Her faint smile returned softer than before. "I know," she said. Then she rode away, and Cole felt the ranch shift around him, as if the dry land itself knew something new had arrived, something he wasn't ready for, something he already wanted. The morning sun spread a soft glow across Cotton Creek Ranch as Cole scrubbed the last bit of dust from the jugs. He liked to pretend he didn't know why he woke before dawn again, but the truth pulled at him stronger than any rope on the ranch. Something about Rosalie Jimenez had stirred the quiet inside him, and it wasn't going back to sleep. When he heard hooves approaching, he didn't turn away. He didn't hide the small lift in his chest, either. Rosalie rode in slow barefoot again, her long braid tucked beneath a scarf. She slid off the donkey with the same sure step she had the day before, and walked straight to the trough. She didn't speak first, neither did he. Then she looked up at him, a spark in her eyes. "You always wake this early?" she asked. "Or just when you're expecting company?" Cole smirked. "The ranch runs at dawn. Doesn't care if I'm tired." "You're alone out here," she said. He nodded. "It's just me now." Something in her face softened. She filled the first jug without rushing, letting the quiet settle around them like a blanket. "That must get heavy," she said. "Some days more than others." She looked at him, then really looked. It wasn't shy or nervous. It was steady, like she was searching for the truth beneath his words. Cole felt the ground shift under him, though his boots hadn't moved. But before he could say more, her donkey let out a sharp bray. Rosalie hurried to its side, worry creasing her brow. "He's limping," she murmured. Cole crouched beside the donkey and lifted its rear leg. A sharp stone was wedged near the frog of the hoof, leaving a shallow wound. "He can't carry you back to town like this," Cole said. Rosalie didn't hesitate. "Then I'll carry the water myself." "That's 8 miles, Rosalie. I've done worse." He shook his head. "You're riding with me. I'll take you home." Surprise flickered across her face. "That's kind of you." "It's not kindness," he said. "It's common sense." She hesitated only a second before nodding. Cole took one jug, loading it onto his saddlebag. She lifted the other and followed him to his horse. When she climbed up behind him, her hands rested light around his waist. Not tight, just enough to keep steady. He felt her warmth through his shirt, the small controlled breaths she took, the way she kept herself from leaning too close. Not fear, not shyness, something like restraint, as if she didn't want to let herself want too much. They rode toward Las Palomas with the desert widening around them. Silver dust swirled behind the horse's hooves. Hawks circled high above, lazy and quiet. The land was harsh, endless, and still somehow peaceful with her beside him. By the time they reached town, the sun had begun to lean westward. Men hammered in the distance, dogs barked from behind fences, and children darted around the forge. When Cole helped Rosalie down, all eyes turned. He was an outsider. He always had been. Rosalie adjusted her scarf. "My house is just there," she said, nodding toward a small adobe home beside the forge. "Your father's in?" Cole asked. "He works late." Before Cole could say more, a woman stepped out from the general store across the street. Mara Quinn. Her auburn hair caught the light, but her expression stayed tight and unreadable. Cole nodded politely. "Morning, Mara." She didn't smile. Her gaze bounced from Cole to Rosalie and back again with an edge he didn't want to unpack. She turned and disappeared into the store without a word. Rosalie watched her leave. "Friend of yours?" she asked. "Used to be," he muttered. Rosalie didn't cry. She just faced him calmly. Almost too calmly. "I'll bring water again tomorrow if you need it," Cole said, her eyes held steady on him. "I'll be waiting." She walked toward the forge, her braids swaying, her steps strong. Cole watched until she disappeared into the doorway. Something about her presence reached places inside him he hadn't touched in years. He mounted his horse and headed back to Cotton Creek, the desert wind curling around him. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. The next morning, when Cole loaded water into the saddlebag, he noticed something near the fence line. 2 empty clay jugs, neatly placed Rosalie's mark, a message without words. She hadn't waited for him. She'd come at dawn, left the jugs, and trusted him to understand. By the time he arrived in Las Palomas, Rosalie was waiting at the edge of the village, sleeves rolled up, hat pulled low. "You brought the water," she said. "You left a message," he replied. She didn't smile. "Come on, there's work to do." They rode back together in the wagon, the barrels rattling behind them. Rosalie talked about town gossip, books she borrowed from the church shelf, how she missed her mother's cooking. Her words filled the quiet places inside him more than he expected. At the ranch, she hopped down before he could help, walked straight to the trough and began hauling buckets. "You're not here just for water, Rosalie," he said. "No," she answered. "I'm not." "Then what are you doing?" She turned slowly, sunlighting her face. "Learning," she said. "Working, helping." She paused. "Isn't that what people do when they're building something?" He stared at her. "Building what?" "I don't know yet," she said. "But I thought I'd start with a fence." That afternoon, they worked side by side, hammering wire under the blazing sun. Rosalie moved with a stubborn determination, even when blisters split her skin. When the hammer slipped and she cut her palm, she didn't cry out. She simply hissed under her breath. Cole grabbed her hand. "Let me see." "It's fine," she said. "It's bleeding. It's mine to bleed." He cleaned the cut gently, wrapping it with a strip torn from his own shirt. She watched him silently, eyes steady. "You're building something inside me," she whispered. "Something I didn't know needed fixing." Before Cole could respond, hoof-beats approached. Slow, heavy Domingo Jimenez. He dismounted without speaking, eyes moving between his daughter's wrapped hand and Cole's steady grip. "Evening," Cole called. Domingo nodded at once. "You got time to talk?" Cole swallowed hard. Of course. Inside the barn, Domingo made his message clear. Cole had stirred something deep in Rosalie, something that mattered, something he needed to face. And when Rosalie didn't come the next morning or the next, Cole began to understand just how much her absence could break him. The barn felt too quiet without her, too still, like the tools themselves were waiting for footsteps that never came. For 3 long days, Cole worked the ranch with a hollow feeling in his chest. He fixed fences, fed horses, checked the spring twice a day, but nothing filled the space Rosalie had carved open. Her gloves still sat on the shelf, curled like a pair of hands, reaching for something that wasn't there anymore. On the 4th morning, he couldn't take it. Cole saddled his horse before sunrise, and rode hard toward Las Palomas, dust swirling behind him in sharp, restless clouds. He didn't shave, didn't change his shirt, didn't think about anything except the empty barn and the quiet spaces where her voice once lived. When he arrived at the forge, sparks flew through the open doorway. Domingo hammered at the anvil without glancing over. Tommy Espinosa polished metal near the steps, his eyes sharp enough to catch the truth. "She's inside," Tommy said. Cole nodded and stepped in. Rosalie stood at the far end of the forge, shaping leather with slow, careful movements. Her hair was tied tight, her sleeves rolled, her face drawn with more tiredness than she let herself show. She didn't look up until she felt him there. When she did, her hands stilled, her breath caught. The space between them thickened like warm smoke. "Can we talk?" Cole asked, his voice low. Domingo wiped his brow, set his hammer down, and walked toward the door. "I need some air," he muttered. Tommy followed. The door closed behind them, leaving Rosalie and Cole alone in the heat of the forge. Rosalie didn't move, didn't speak, didn't hide the confusion in her eyes. Your father came to see me, Cole began. Said, I stirred something in you. You did, she said simply. He stepped closer. I don't want to confuse you. You didn't. I don't want to make you give up anything. You're not. Cole exhaled rough and uneven. Then why haven't you come back? Rosalie finally set the leather down and turned fully toward him. There was no anger in her eyes, only a hurt she had tried to hold steady. I needed to think, she said softly, about what I want, about who I'm becoming, and Cole asked. And I realized something, she said. I don't want to stop learning. Not from you, not from the world, but I also don't want to become someone who needs permission to breathe. Cole swallowed hard. Rosalie, I never wanted that. I know, she murmured. But I needed time to make sure. Silence settled heavy but not sharp. She stepped closer. Why are you here, Cole? She asked. Tell me the truth. He took a shaky breath. Because I miss the sound of your voice in the barn. Because every time I see your gloves on the shelf, I forget how to work without you. Because I can't stop thinking about what we started building. Her eyes softened, and I don't just mean the shelves or the fences, he said. I mean us. For the first time in days, she smiled, small but full of hope. She took his hand and placed it over her heart. I asked my father yesterday, she whispered. Asked him what, if I could marry you. Cole froze. The forge's heat suddenly felt colder than the desert wind. He didn't yell, she said. Didn't argue. He just said, then he better come speak to me like a man. Cole let out a breath he didn't know he held. And, did I? You showed up, she said. You didn't run. He stepped closer until their foreheads nearly touched. Is this what you want, Rosalie? Truly, I want to build a life, she said. Not under you, not behind you, beside you. If you want the same, then we start today. That was all he needed. Their wedding came the next month. Small and warm under a wide New Mexico sky. Rosalie wore her mother's dress fitted with her own careful hands. Domingo stood proud at her side. Tommy helped Cole mend the chapel roof just in time. Mara Quinn watched from a distance, but didn't speak. When Cole and Rosalie returned to Cotton Creek as husband and wife, the ranch felt different, not softer, not easier, but alive. They unpacked her tools first. Then they unpacked their future. Every day they built something. Fences, shelves, meals, trust. Every night they learned how to breathe together. And then one morning, Rosalie came into the barn holding a folded blueprint. Her eyes glowed with something deeper than hope. I read her the design, she said, placing the paper on the bench. For the shelf, Cole asked. No, she said, placing his hand gently on her stomach. For the future. It took him a second to understand. When he did, he stepped back like someone had knocked the air out of him. She nodded. We're not planning ahead anymore, she whispered. We're right on time. Months later, under a harvest sky, Rosalie went into labor. The baby boy came into the world pink, loud, and perfect. They named him Miguel after Cole's grandfather. That night, sitting by the fire with their newborn in her arms, Rosalie asked, Are you still scared? Cole nodded. More than ever. Good, she said softly. That means you'll do it right. The cradle they built together sat beside the hearth, glowing warm in the firelight. Cole often traced its edges, remembering the days Rosalie first asked him to teach her how to use her hands. Now those hands held their son. And as Cole stood on the porch one quiet evening with Miguel against his chest and Rosalie beside him, he whispered the truth that lived deep in his bones. Love isn't something you wait for, he said. It's something you build. Rosalie smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. And we've only just begun.